Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. Hope you guys have had an awesome day out there, a great Monday, a great start to your week, and having yourselves a great night. We're going to talk about a couple things in this evening's video. We're not going to keep you guys long at all, just some pretty cut and dry information about what's going on kind of right now and what could potentially go on throughout the overnight hours. And then we're going to talk about how cold the temperatures can get tonight and how cold the temperatures will be during the day tomorrow, as in there'll be some cold high temperatures, if that makes any sense. Temperatures will struggle to get out the 50s for even areas in the south. So that's what we're going to break down for you guys. And then we're going to take a little bit of a look at who could see some snow outside the areas that are seeing it right now. We're going to move a little bit further east for you folks maybe in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and far western areas of New York State. We'll break down that. We'll just talk about a couple things. Not going to keep you guys long. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly hit that button for me. Like the video if you like it. It goes a long way. I appreciate the support. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So real quick, we'll talk about watches and warnings. We got these freeze warnings in this purple color right here. The freeze watches are in the light blues, so this has obviously been extended a little bit further south, where confidence has increased that we're potentially going to have a freeze here in the next few mornings. And then you notice that they're starting to drift a little bit deeper into South Carolina. I expect these to move a little bit deeper into areas of Georgia also. You got them all the way up into Virginia. So the reason you have this little gap in West Virginia into the mountains of Virginia is because you already have had your freezes. So they don't really issue any more freeze warnings or freeze watches once you've already established your first couple freezes of the year. So for a lot of these areas, this will be your first time waking up to sub-freezing temperatures for a lot of areas. Now, even some of these areas have probably already seen sub-freezing temperatures in isolated areas, especially if you live away from town, out in the country areas. But in general, most of these areas have not seen well below 32-degree weather. You see these areas in purple right here? We're about to talk about that. That is actually winter weather advisory. So if you click this area right here, you are definitely dealing with some snow in northern Indiana right now. It's pretty incredible to see. So we're actually going to just jump to that right now. Let's take a look at the radar out of what is going on in northern Indiana. This is southern sections of Michigan. This is Ohio over here. This is Illinois right here. You're reporting snow in areas of central Illinois. You got your first snowflakes of the 2022 cold season, fall season underway for Chicago. You had some snow this morning and still some lingering snow showers. The further west you work, the more cold air you have to deal with. It's very marginal error right here. So I know you're thinking, well, this looks like rain. It looks like it switched from the blues back to the yellows and greens. Well, don't focus too much on that. This is called bright banding, which means there's some huge snowflakes in the atmosphere right here in this lake effect snow. And the idea is throughout the rest of the evening and night, this band is probably going to shift a little bit further west. And the reason it does that is because basically the flow with all this cold air coming in behind this trough and cold front basically switches more from a northwest to southeast flow to more of just a north to south flow. So the flow shifts, so this band of moisture shooting off what is still a relatively warm Lake Michigan, which is allowing for this intense convection to fire off, will begin to shift a little bit further to the west. But listen, certain areas have already picked up accumulating snow in this region right here. In fact, the actual National Weather Service in this section right here of Indiana has already it's white on the ground. There's snow on the ground, but it's a weird area going on right now. For example, somebody on Twitter told me in Warsaw right here, Indiana, that it was just raining. But then I got other areas saying it's snowing. So it really depends on where you are at. Fort Wayne, Indiana, reporting snow, even though it shows just greens over y'all. But this is what we talked about this morning that had the potential to happen, and it certainly is unfolding. It's hard to beat the ARRR models in these kind of situations. So let's talk about what can happen the rest of the night. So this is around 8 p.m., so which is around kind of right now. Watch out, this band continues to fire off Lake Michigan, but then it begins to shift to the west. So you got to watch out if you're getting into Lafayette. Maybe some flakes make it to you guys, but basically if you're between Lafayette and Fort Wayne, somewhere in here could get some intense snow. And the thing is this is, anywhere from midnight to the wee hours of the morning tonight. Well, after midnight, you got more cold air, obviously, in the middle of the night than you do in the late evening. And it's going to be a chance for this to mainly fall as snow in this region. So even down to Indianapolis, I think you guys will be reporting snow into the overnight hours. And look at these little splotches of blue right here. Some flakes are most likely going to make it all the way down to Kentucky. Cincinnati, Louisville, maybe as far south as Lexington, Kentucky. Some flakes. You might wake up to some flakes flying around tomorrow morning in areas of Indiana. It'll be very impressive to see, but we got to see what's going to unfold here. This can make it all the way to the slopes of, to basically the higher elevations of eastern Kentucky, which I don't have showing on this screen. But here's some video out of this area right now. This was out of Wawazee. Hopefully I said that right. Indiana. I mean, look at this. The trees are sagging. Whoever is under this band and has the most cold air aloft, I mean, it is dumping right now for you guys. So it's really impressive to see. This is a lot of snow. This is underneath that band in Indiana. So we'll stop this here and we'll go to another video. This is out of Columbia City, Indiana. Geographically speaking, I'm not very familiar with northern Indiana, but I mean, that is what you love to see right there. Those snowflakes the size of freaking DVDs, quarters, half dollars. And it's just beautiful to see. And I know there's still a lot of foliage on the trees out here, which is a good and bad thing. It's good because it's really pretty to look at, but at the same time, it's bad because it can cause power outages, things like that, because the more leaves are on the trees, this heavy, wet clumps of snow is going to pile up on this leafage, sag the trees down, and they can sag on power lines. So be careful out there for sure. It's beautiful to see. And the good news is it's not going to last long. It's not like it's a snow in January in Indiana or in the Ohio Valley where it snows and stays on the ground for days, maybe weeks at a time. That's not the case tonight. This is October snow. It's much different. Potential low temperatures tonight, guys. I mean, if you're in the south, this is going to be the first really widespread cold morning. I think Nashville, Kentucky, most areas will get to the low 30s, if not below 32 degrees. Most of the state of Missouri, points north, is going to be below freezing. Once you get into Iowa, it starts to become downright cold. I wouldn't call it frigid. I wouldn't call the 20s frigid for Iowa. You guys can handle it better than that. But very cold for these areas, even for October standards. But look at the higher elevations of the mountains of the Appalachian Mountains all the way to the southern areas. Sub-freezing temperatures. This will be your first night, first out of the next probably 4 or 5 nights where many areas in the southern Appalachian Mountains gets below freezing. So even waking up, for example, Columbia to Raleigh, it hit into the mid 80s today, about low to mid 80s today in Columbia. You'll wake up tomorrow morning and it'll feel like a different air mass. It'll be downright chilly. And then the thing is tomorrow this is high temperatures. It's going to struggle to get out the 50s for most of the state of Alabama and Mississippi. Arkansas, most of the state will be in the 50s, maybe just some 40s, especially if you live in the Ozarks. Nothing but 40s for highs for Missouri, the entire Ohio Valley, maybe just some areas get just in the 30s. And it'll be downright cold in the Appalachian Mountains. I really think this coming weekend is going to be the last weekend for peak fall foliage. I think, honestly, this past weekend was the best weekend. But I'll be able to actually visibly see it myself when I go this weekend because I'm heading to the mountains to go camping somewhere in southwest North Carolina. But this is going to be, if the leaves have not changed yet, if there's a few isolated trees that have not been able to change, they are definitely going to get kick-started with this cold snap that's going to be underway. But these are high temperatures tomorrow. Very chilly. I mean, look at the Carolinas, Georgia, 50s and 60s for high temperatures. They'll struggle to get to 60 degrees. Now, talking about the lake effect snow in areas of Pennsylvania and New York State, it's a tricky setup. Tuesday morning, this is when we'll start this off. You already have some rain, snow showers mixing in. But then as we get into tomorrow afternoon, the core of the cold air aloft begins to work in. And then these lake effect moisture begins to shoot off these Great Lakes here. And then you could get, watch out Columbus tomorrow afternoon, evening, maybe a period of some light snow as possible. Even as far south as Columbus, for example. Look at the snow showers starting to pop up in the mountains of West Virginia. And then we'll watch out for Pittsburgh, up to Erie, The entire western sections of Pennsylvania, far western New York State, could certainly start to see some snow flurries. And then you got to watch out for the streamer coming off Lake Erie. Just with the flow, it's going to be moving more so from west to east. So anywhere in this area, Pennsylvania, northwest Pennsylvania, and western areas of New York State could see a period of maybe some moderate to heavy snow. And look at these streamers still firing off here in northern Michigan. But I think if you live in these areas of western New York State, I think it's going to be hard to get some snow. I think if you get any, it'll probably be late overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. But we'll give you an update on that when we know more here in the next day. But as far as snowfall between now and this is pretty much the whole entire duration of the event, showing the possibility from the blend of all models. Not the National Weather Service, showing the possibility of a few inches of snow, very isolated in nature around this New York to Pennsylvania state border on the north, basically on the western sides and northwestern side of PA and the far western areas of New York State. Watch this area right in here, south of Buffalo, but east of Erie will be a jackpot area that we need to watch that could get a few inches of snow. And then the higher mountain ranges of West Virginia could certainly see some snow. One thing I want to mention, here in the future, it's going to warm back up. The entire last week of September, the entire first half of October, below average temperatures pretty much dominate the pattern. It looks like we're going to switch to above average temperatures in the next 6 to 10 days. So go on and be aware of that. You know, all good things must come to an end if you're a big cold weather fan like myself. But this doesn't mean it's going to be in the 90s, guys. But it's certainly going to be a warmer pattern. And it might feel just more like fall as opposed to winter like it's going to feel like this week and does already. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Another way to look at this is the European. And here comes this colder than average temperatures for the rest of the week. And then we start to get into the weekend. Temperatures moderate. And then here comes the above average temperatures for next week. These warmer colors are above average anomalies compared to average. So go on and expect that. But that's all I got, guys. Enjoy the snow tonight. It's pretty impressive to see on radar. It really is. But if you're a fan of snow in October, you're certainly getting it in certain areas of Indiana and, of course, the UP of Michigan. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a great night, and I'll talk to y'all in the morning.